In this lesson, you will learn how to implement a waterfall approach using ALM Octane. So for this topic, there was a high request from different customers and community to record a video on how to implement a waterfall approach, especially for customers who are coming from ALM Quality Center. So we have built now a presentation and a demo to show you how you can leverage waterfall projects using ALM Octane. So let's start. First of all, Octane is designed to implement whatever is from waterfall to DevOps and everything in between. So it provides the capability for you to adapt modules as you like. You can have different flavors of it. You can have the agile approach implemented. You can have the more hybrid approach where you have a mix of waterfall and agile implemented, or you can also completely go to the traditional approach and just implement the modules you need for providing the waterfall management. So how does it do it? ALM Octane supports all flavors of software development by providing exactly those different modules. For a traditional approach, you could implement the requirements module alone, but if you need some additional capabilities from the quality perspective as well as from the test management perspective, you can have the quality module and defect module integrated on top of the requirements module and a dashboard. But I saw also different use cases and implementation where requirements module was just enough, at least for the end user. Or you continue and say you want to implement a hybrid mode because you are just transforming towards agile. You have not completely transformed, so you can make a mix of traditional and agile and implement a hybrid approach where requirements module will be used, and then you have a couple of agile teams already integrated in this project, and they are working with backlog modules. You can have on top of it the whole quality ecosystem with defect management and for sure dashboard. Or if you are working with, let's say, external vendors, you can also use the hybrid mode because it's more usable, where you define your requirements, whatever you need to deliver, and hand it over to the external vendor, and the external vendor will work in agile mode and provide you feedback, so you can really implement it using the hybrid configuration. Or you go fully agile and digital and go with the backlog module. On top of it, adapt the quality module if needed, pipelines, defect, and dashboard. So basically for all those different modules, the standard configuration would be just the leading one, which is driven by the requirement. For traditional, it will be only the requirements module. For hybrid, it will be requirements and backlog module, and for agile it will be only backlog module. All other modules like quality can be optional integrated. The heat map of the quality can still be maintained, so you just need to have one user who is maintaining the quality module structure, and from the backlog module, from the requirements module, you can link your test cases to the right quality application module. So this is not a problem, but for the end user perspective, make sure you just make those modules visible which are needed at the end of the day to get the job done. So that would be just the leading module as described. So let's take a look now how a simple mapping would look like. Yeah, so basically you have here the waterfall implementation process on the left hand side, and then you have the Octane modules on the right hand side. So this is a example mapping where you can say, okay, the first 3 phases will be more in the requirement module, and you have a kind of implementation where you write the code. If you want to integrate your CI/CD pipeline, you could potentially do it, or any kind of CI server you want to implement. Also in a waterfall approach, I've seen this more and more coming up for automation purposes, so you could integrate those. But for verification, then the quality and testing can be done directly in Octane. You could also here use just use the requirements module to do the testing, and then defect management. Also, if there are defects popping up, you make sure that you are covering them, and everything can be tracked using the dashboard module. So this is just one simple mapping what could be used, and make sure to hide all the other modules to not confuse the users. There's another approach, like if you want to go V model. So this would be then the mapping where you map the concept and requirements architecture to the requirements module. You have your implementation, implement it, integrate if you have CI servers embedded, and then the whole verification part, the second part of the V model, can be done using testing, quality module if needed. Otherwise, go with the requirements module, testing capabilities, and do it with the defect module, so you can track and operate and maintain all the things which are not working, fix the defects which are coming from production, and maintain the whole project, track it using the dashboard modules across the process. So how it was done in ALM Quality Center. So basically ALM Quality Center was really top down. So you had the module layer, the dashboard module was more for the reporting purposes, just ignore it for now. But from then you have the management module, which was more for the release planning. You have to do the release dates in order to really track release information. So you maintain the release management module in QC to really document everything, the timelines, the sprints, the scope, define the KPIs, whatever was needed, and also replicate it in the same structure in the libraries module. But you have to start here on the top. So release management was done. Then you went to the next one, which was a requirements management. And here it is important to understand that it was only possible to manage requirement, but the definition was done maybe outside in Word or Excel or any other third-party tool which was then integrated, and the requirements were brought in. Once the requirements were defined, you continued basically with the coverage, test coverage, execution coverage, brought the test planning up, executed all the test cases in different modules. So it was not possible directly here, for instance, on the requirement module to define a test case. This is important to understand now. If you want to go and use ALM Octane for Waterfall in Quality Center, these modules were really having one focus, where each module has its scope. So in requirements, there was no possibility to touch any kind of maintenance on the test case itself. So you have to go anyway to the test plan module, and here you could edit the test cases. If you wanted to execute it, neither on the requirements nor on the test plan module you could execute. You have to go to the test lab module, and from here you could execute your test cases. And if a defect was created during the testing, this was done in test lab, but the management of the defect was not in the requirements module, not in the test plan, not in test lab. You have to go to the defect module in order to do the management of defects. So it was really limited to the specific disciplines and areas, and this was really due to the fact that it was more the traditional part of working, and also today it is really tied to those modules, so you cannot really do the cross work on entities in the different modules. Octane is different. Octane is really designed to provide flexibility to allow users to work faster, quickly, and get the information just with one click. So that's why we have here the different modules. We have also so-called modules, but these are not really modules. These are predefined views on the ALM Octane workspaces. So you have a view here for requirements. But this view just is focusing on the point of view requirement. It also provides the capability to have and manage tests directly here. So you don't need any additional module to do the requirements management, test management, defect management, requirements coverage, execution, everything can be done in this requirements management module. If you want to do agile, you can just work with backlog module and do everything you want to implement, coverage, tracking, progress, execution of test cases, defect tracking. Everything is manageable in backlog module. Same goes for team backlog. So they are more or less acting together. While as you have also a quality module, which is also on its own providing a different point of view, which is coming really from the application perspective with the application module structure or any kind of business process structure you can build there and get the quality view across your different projects. So while as let's say we are using a requirements view here together with the quality view, this would give you the perfect fit for managing the business side of the implementation, but also taking care on the application side, application view on the implementation, and combine both views with each other. So this is where Octane makes the flexibility, and as you can see, every of those modules has test in it. Yeah, so test is really part of the whole scene. Quality is everywhere. We allow also to do the testing from every module. More or less, the pipelines is a more special module which is really focusing on CI and automation, but on all other modules you can manage your test cases, execute your test cases right from that point. Yeah, so you don't have to switch the module in order to do a task. So one module is enough to do the full job, and this is the main difference between Quality Center and ALM Octane. While as in Quality Center you had here the different modules, and each module was really focusing on its discipline. Requirements was focusing only on requirement, test plan was focusing only on the test creation, test maintenance, test lab was focusing only on test execution, and defect creation and defect management was really focusing on defect management. So the defect module was not there where you could run test cases. It was really focusing on defect management. And in Octane you have really this view where you can use just one view to implement the job and do everything you need to cover the process. So let's go to the next one, which is just the mapping. So you can see here the traditional users, if they would like to use Octane, they need to make sure that requirements is definitely used. So this is one thing. Or agile users will use backlog or team backlog. So we have also a developer license where only team backlog view is provided with all the backlog management, but as well as on the test management part. So you have the capability with the developer license of Octane to cover basically everything which is needed in a sprint and in a release. From the development, implementation and testing part. Then you have the quality module, and this is really special. This gives you the view from the application perspective. While you have the business view on the backlog and requirements module, here we provide you an application view, so you can have two views which are looking on the same topic of quality. One is the business view and the other one is the application view, which is mainly done by the quality module. So this is how you would use it in different kind of configurations. So let's take a look now on how users from the community are using ALM Octane while migrating from QC. Yeah, so let's see if a customer who was working really top down using the release management module, you had the requirements, test plan, test lab and defects. So what would be the configuration they would use in Octane? So basically the configuration would look like this. This is the end user view. Yeah, so end user who will work with Octane on daily basis for implementing a traditional approach. Additionally, you could also bring in the quality module. In some of the implementation I've seen, it's really beneficial, at least for the test managers and test designers who have the more application view on the whole topic. So bringing in the quality module is good, but it's also enough to provide the majority of end users this view, which is only the requirements view. My work is always important, so the user can track his work. You have the dashboard module and you have the issues module. So this is really just on top. Requirements is fully enough if you don't want to do any kind of additional defect management capabilities or any specific reporting. You don't need to have dashboard and issues as well. So just my work for the end user and the whole requirements module to implement a waterfall approach. A more quality approach where users in quality center were using release, test plan, test lab, and defects. So no requirements. It was this view. So for those users, it will be quality will be enough. Yeah. So they have the test plan capabilities by designing the test cases here. They have all the execution possibilities as well as the defect management. This would be enough. You could potentially add the issues module and defect module, the dashboard module here. Not needed at all for the majority of the end users. For test managers, it makes sense. So they can really have the additional capabilities by using the issues and dashboard module. For my work, this is something every users need to really understand what is on his work bucket. So I would suggest to enable it. And the last configuration would be, let's say you have a Jira integration. Yeah? What would you use? And today I see many organizations moving away from Jira. So what would be the best configuration for you in adapting Octane coming from Jira plus QC? Your configuration would look like this. Yeah? So you have the backlog module, which was mainly covering the Jira part. So you have the backlog module and the team backlog to cover really the release and sprint implementation Jira users are familiar with, but bringing in the testing, test plan, and test lab capabilities by providing on those views the testing part. This is what you would use. You could also get rid for majority of users for the team backlog. I think team backlog is mainly used for developer teams, but for testing team it would be enough to go with the backlog module, have the structure in place and execute the coverage on the backlog module. And beside it, for test managers, always quality module is always an option, but don't overload the user's view with too much modules. So now enough talking, let's go into the demo. So now before we go into the topic itself, I would like to show you how the different configuration as we have talked about look like. So you can see here, this is a typical waterfall implementation. So this would be the end user's view you would have. And if you go into the requirements management module or view in ALM Octane, you don't need any additional thing. You have the release capabilities here. You have here the requirements management capabilities. You have the testing and defects. So basically this would be enough. However, this is the configuration I would suggest to all users who are coming from ALM Quality Center. This would be enough. You don't need to have any backlog module or quality. You could potentially use in this manner, but more for the test management part. The majority of users will see only the requirements module. This is the second configuration, which I also recommend to at least not the testers itself, but for the test managers, people who want to really understand also the application view. So they would use the quality module. The requirements module will provide the business view. Another configuration, this is more for hybrid, just to understand where it could potentially go. You can also combine those modules. And the last one would be just for agile. But the session is about how to implement a waterfall approach. So let's dive into this one. So for waterfall approach, as already mentioned, we have this configuration I will use. You have the requirements management module, which will document all the requirements we have. And in this scenario, we are taking just the SAP structure, but it could be any traditional application you would like to test and do the lifecycle management for it. In this case, the examples are built on SAP use cases. And this will provide you, the requirements management module will provide you the business view, and the quality module will provide you the quality view. So what does it mean actually? What is a business view? So a business view would look like a structure of your business requirement specification where you document what should be implemented. Yeah? And in the requirements module, and this is the beauty about Octane, it is not only allowing you to manage requirements, but also author and design requirements. This is very important to understand. You have this word-like view where you can really type down, format the text, put in tables, text, images, and really get started with the requirements definition, define the different chapters you are looking to implement, and structure your documentation directly in the tool online, and enable collaboration across the different members. Waterfall doesn't mean that collaboration is not possible. So collaboration is always possible. It will be even improve your waterfall process and allow you to really work together in different teams. So this would be the authoring part, and by having the authoring done, you can really go to the next one, which is the management part. And the management part is really very interesting. Here you will see in Octane you have always this tree. Yeah, so for all the modules in requirements, you can build a tree, and the tree is representing for you a context of your requirements. What is a context? You can see currently I'm on this business requirement specification node. If I switch, my context will change. Yeah? And in between I have the working area. And the working area for me mostly defines the 4 main widgets I would like to have for this use case. And as we are talking about a waterfall approach, I want to see what are my requirements planning for a specific context. Yeah? So what does it mean, requirements planning? How many requirements do I have? What is the current phase of it? Are they accepted? Are they still in draft mode, in design mode? So I want to know what is going on there. The other thing what I also want to know is, what is the test coverage? Do I have in this structure the coverage of each requirement, or is something missing? And what I can quickly see here, I have financial accounting, and I see totally number of test cases are 9, and 3 are ready from this. Awaiting review is 1, in design is 4, 1 is new. And so I can go for project management. I have the sales and distribution. And here I have a requirement area, which is sourcing and procurement, where no test is covered. Yeah? So this is also something to identify, to find out the areas where no coverage exists. And then you have the supply chain management, where you can see what is going on from the coverage perspective there. And then you continue with the next one. Like here I had the test coverage, and here on the bottom I have the test execution coverage. And this is really for across this. I have mapped this to my cache management, but I could also change it. Let me go here, and instead of the application modules, I could say these are the covered requirements. Where are those requirements? So this should be here, covered requirements. And then I would see basically the same view here. And I can see directly what is going on where I don't have any coverage. I already saw here. Yeah, so here I don't have, so I have already 4 areas which I'm covering, and those 4 areas are representing me the execution coverage, which is also important, especially for waterfall. When you plan test coverage, you need to make sure that those test coverage are also executed. So this is here highlighted, and if test coverage is not executed, you will see it in Octane as planned. This is also important to understand. In QC it's no run. In Octane it will be planned, so you can identify what is need to be done in order to have 100% of execution coverage. And Beside that, I also have the context-specific view on the defects, where I see what is the total number of defects. Additionally, I could have also additional charts. I can have here multiple charts, but I feel good with 4 is enough. This makes sense and give me the good overview on what's going on. And now on the very right-hand side, I have another filter context driver for me and for my data, which can change everything what I see here. So I want to have, for instance, I want to know what happened in release 1.0. Release 1.0 is executed. I want to see, okay, this was the view of release 1.0. I see here my requirements in planning area. 1 was in draft, 10 were accepted, so that's why we moved on. 1 was in design. And here I see basically the areas of coverage and area of execution coverage, which is good. I can see no open defect existed, so this was actually why we deployed release 1.0. And now we are in release 1.1 in between, and we are going to create a requirement and so on. But this is how you would filter it. And now let's play a bit with the context. I want to know a coverage for sales and distribution. So let's click on this sales and distribution node. I'm changing the context, but I can directly see here that under sales and distribution, I have 3 nodes, and all 3 are covered by different test cases, which is good for me. I can directly identify how it's going on. So from the execution coverage, and let's go for the release 1. So from the execution coverage, I can see here these 3 are passed, which is good for release 1.0. So already here, by putting the context on the business topics and providing the release information, it will give you the dedicated view what you are looking for. Let's switch to the financial accounting and see for release 1.0 what the progress were. We were not able to execute some test cases, which is okay. Those were planned. Others were blocked, so we moved a couple of things in the next release, and here I can see a successful coverage. Also here I see additional nodes which were not covered, so I had 2 requirement with clear GL accounts which were not covered, and total receivable were not covered, but at that time I didn't needed it. It's just topic for release 1.1. So this is a good way to really go through and identify where I have coverage, where I don't have any coverage. So this will give me exactly the view I'm looking for from the requirements management point of view. So as we are in the latest release, which is 1.1, and we are in between of it, we can see here still for the different areas we don't have coverage everywhere, but I would like to now focus on the sales management, sales and distribution, and I would like to create a new requirement which is order to delivery. Yeah, so where I will like to describe how order to delivery requirement should be documented. But before we do that, we said here on the module level, this is the business view, and here we have the application view. Yeah, and before you do any kind of things, documentation, make sure that your quality module is maintained. So this would be the very first part in your workspaces, in your projects, to start with the quality module. The quality module is just a definition of topics, how your application is organized. This could be application related. You can provide here your top level modules of your application and break it down in sub modules and substructures. So it supports different structure. I have keep it simple for now, so we can see exactly what is the impact of it. Currently we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 top level modules in application module, and the impact of it is in Octane we have a possibility to view a specific widget which is called heat map widget for quality. It's a quality heat map, and you can see it represents to me exactly those modules. So in total 6 modules we had there. So I can see in the quality module I have the finance, cash management, procurement, sales, supply chain, and project management, and those modules are represented here in different sizes. And this is now also important. The size of the modules can vary between story points or number of test cases. As we are in a traditional approach, story points would not be the right configuration. So you can set the size of a heat map by its covering number of test cases. So this would be basically what are the number of test cases. I can see in sales we have the majority or the highest number of test cases. In finance I have a couple of test cases, and the lower the size, the less number of test cases there exist. And then some of those are red, others are green, and this is because of different criteria in this chart, which shows me when it should make a block green or red. Yeah, so if for instance more than 0 defects matches a specific filter, if I have open defect, this area will become red. Yeah, and you can have some additional configuration here defined for the criteria, but I will not drill down into that. So let's change this view for now. What I will do is I'm going to create a new requirement which will be more on the sales and distribution, where I will create a new requirement called order to delivery. And for order to delivery, I know from SAP delivery belongs to the logistic module or logistic topics. So I will create here a new module called logistic on the highest level. Say add, and I will not handle it for now. It's okay. Logistic, you can see it's there. It's not maintained. It's empty. If I click on it, it's completely empty. For now, it's okay. But now we are going to fill it in and link the stuff with it. Yeah. So now what we will do is we will create this requirement here under sales and distribution and add a new requirement called order to delivery. Yeah, and here, and I have copied a description just for the sake of having data inside, and I have added this under sales and distribution. And if I refresh my charts now here, I can directly see that for release 1.1, I have here a specific area which is not covered. Yeah, so I can now look into it and say, okay, in the details, the first thing I will do is I will assign the release to it. So this will be implemented in this release. For sure, I can assign multiple releases. And now I can say, save, this is done. And from here, from that requirement, I can now start creating test cases. And I will create a manual test case. Let's say simple and easy, order to delivery. And I can define what type it is. Is it a regression test? Is it a performance test? Whatever it is, I say it's an acceptance test. This is okay. Backlog coverage I don't have. So basically those fields I would say get rid of. Make sure that the application module in your configuration is a required field. Let me make it required so we can really work with it. So I have just made it required. Let me refresh my browser. It's reloaded and I will open now the test. And you can see application module is required. So this is important. When you would want to hide the quality module, make sure that it is maintained by 1-2 person who will make sure that the structure is there, but then make sure also to make this module required. Yeah? And then you can say, okay, it will be selected, and you can also configure it like if more than one is selected, just warn the user this is not possible. It should be only one. So this is up to your configuration. In my case, I will create the order to delivery test. It will be acceptance. This is fine. And description, let's say I put the same one inside. And now I have created this test. And let's go back for a second and switch here to see. Now I can see that I have a coverage here for this specific test. I have created a coverage and it is visible. Yeah, for sure, if I would switch here to the release 1.0, it will show, okay, in this release nothing happened because I don't have any execution yet, but I have planned it for this requirement, and the moment I will execute, it will also change here. So now let's define the test for this release. Let me define it now. So we have here the test, and let's add few steps. We open app and open app. Then we say this should be just open app. Create delivery based on order and save delivery, and that's it. Just simple. And now what I can do is I can say, okay, this test which I've created has in total 3 steps, and those I would like to plan for release 1.1. This is fine. Plan it. And now let's go back and see what happens. We are here again, and you can see if I select the release, it will show me now also this test. Even it has not been executed yet, but it is planned, and we can see here that the execution coverage is on no run. It means planned from that point of view. And the moment I will now continue to work and say, okay, I would like to run this test which I have planned. So let's go to the planned test, which I can view from here directly. And this test I would like to run now. So let's execute it. The manual runner will start, and basically when you are doing it now, I have started to create execution for this test. And let's say directly here, delivery creation is not possible. Delivery creation not possible. Missing IDOC or something like this. Missing IDOC makes no sense, but I have to provide something. And now I can say I would like to open a defect. We remember, and I can do this maybe in parallel to show you the benefit of all this what we are doing here. We remember our manual test case. We have created this manual test case for the application module logistics. And now we have the manual runner open, and we would like to open a new defect. And this defect is automatically assigned to this application module. And this is really important. Octane makes things connected, things auto-populated and simple for the user to track later on. And this is how you would really orchestrate quality. You don't need to select all the different same data and define a workflow which will do it. No, Octane does it out of the box. What you just need to do is describe what happened. So you say here order to delivery IDOC error, and you can say I would like to paste the test steps which I had here, and if you want you can also add a picture inside of it. And the moment you say you are done, you save it and stop the test, and now different things happen. And let's do it step by step. The first thing what I can see is here, this test is covered with failure. So let's go back to the sales and distribution. For this release, I can see I have here order to delivery is failed, and I have here a new defect. I don't think this is mine, because mine has been filtered out. I didn't provide, but we will look at it. I didn't provide the severity. However, the defect will be appearing just in a second. Let me do it directly. This is sometimes based on the different configurations of the demo environment. So I will put in severity very high, save it. And I forgot to change also the current release, because it was detected in release. And basically in Waterfall you also say when this defect will be fixed. So you also enter the release. I want to fix it in this release as we are in the early stage. So let's go back to the requirement, and if I refresh now, you would see I have here 2 defects, which is very high, and the test is failed. So this is really something which is just immediately there. On top of it, we have on our dashboard module, if I would refresh, or let's go to the configuration 1.1, you can see logistic is there. There are 2 things which happened. 2 of our criteria, you can read it, more than 0 defects filter was caught, as well as the more than 5% test run failed, and that's why it filled in this heat map for me. Additionally, it provides here for me the different areas where I can see where the errors are. These are per requirement, so I can see here order to delivery has 1, procure to invest has today 1, sell from stock, specification management for recipes, and track sales order. I see here my current testing progress, which is also nice, and I see here the different defect status. So 40% of my defects are in proposed close, and I have 20% 2 defects which are in the phase new. But this is what is provided out of the box. Not much configuration. Octane does it for you, and you don't really need to go into the quality module for every user who will maintain the quality and work in the quality and in the requirements module. Do everything directly in the requirements module by providing the right context and permissions, so the users can really focus on things which matters to them. So now we have created this defect, and let's assume at some point we say this test is or the defect is fixed. So let's go here and see the defect itself. You can see it is automatically also linked to the requirement. This is also important, while as it is linked to the test case. But if I go to the covered requirement, you can see this defect which I have created during the execution on the manual run was automatically again linked to the requirements document. This is also a feature of Octane where you don't have to take care that defects which are occurring during test cycles are linked to the right content, right requirement and coverage. This is done automatically. So Octane provides you these capabilities so you can manage your defects with the right context. So now let's assume we will open this defect. Now somebody is going to work on it. You can enable here the configuration who is going to work on it. Let's say this is the other user of mine. So he should be able to now receive an email. Let's quickly see how it looks like. This is how our email looks like. So I have received this email, and by clicking it, I see here directly the defect information. I can just fix it and say it's fixed. Yeah. And now the tester will receive an email. I will not show this anymore, but here we can see it's still on open, but if I refresh, it is going to be fixed. And now this tester is going to execute the test which is linked to this defect. So best would be to really go from here to the manual run, and or let's go back. I think easier it is much if you go here directly to the test case itself and say I would like to run it now. And the moment you run, some informations are automatically populated. You execute the test run, and then really again verify the execution. If all steps are passed, so this is good. One more thing which is important here, on the test execution you can always see from the history if there were any kind of defects before, even before the release. So those defects will be listed here. It's a very nice feature if you want to really, if you have a defect and you want to relink it, you can just see the ID and relink it directly to the current run as well. So it will be relinked to the current context. So that's about it from the execution side. So now we have executed the test, which is passed, and I can go back again here to my documentation. I can see here on the sales and distribution, my test is passed. The defect is gone. It has been fixed, and I can see here as well the execution for the order to delivery is passed. And if I go here to my application module, this is my view for the latest release. It should get rid of this, and this should become green. So let's refresh. So here order to delivery is gone and logistic just became green. So this is how Octane would help you running in a completely waterfall environment. And now let's say you are willing to invest now in automation, where you have decided to automate test cases for sales and distribution. And the way to do it is you will then really go to that automation or to that manual test and go into the details and say you want to automate this, define it here, ready for automation. I would suggest to add an additional field for automation owner, and then you would select this person who would then really do the automation. Once automation is done, you can go here into this test case, and the automation has been executed and is in ALM Octane. You can go here and say covering automated test, and you can then link the test which is really for that purpose. So I will just select one of those to that manual test, and you see here it has switched automatically to the status, automation status automated, and this would be your execution for your automated coverage for the manual test. But this is just a sneak peek how the waterfall implementation can take place in ALM Octane. It provides those capabilities from the business perspective as well as from the application point of view, where you can see what are the requirements I need to cover, execute, and plan test for and manage test for, and from the application perspective, what are the impacted modules on my application I'm using. So in our case for SAP, we have defined the SAP modules. For sure, the high level I could also go deeper, but in order for provider understanding, it was really it is simpler to have just one level modules, and then using the dashboard you were able to track all the progresses across the life cycle, from the creation of the requirements, then also going to the requirements coverage, the test coverage we have defined here. So you were able to see directly what are the requirements which are not covered and what are the requirements which are executed. And here this is the mapping, how the requirements map to the application modules. On the other side, I think it was here on this level, we have the mapping where the requirements is showing the execution view. So you see exactly those nodes under the context where you are in are listed directly in the test coverage. So this was how you can really track end to end from the definition to the test execution and defect management, every activity in your waterfall approach in ALM Octane directly.